Hi, Dr. Buttler here. Thank you so much for taking the time to learn more about your health today. I wanted to speak to you on the topic of anxiety and depression. Anxiety and depression are a fairly common part of healthcare anymore. The statistics show that we are increasing in our diagnosis of anxiety and depression. We are treating more anxiety and depression. We are prescribing more pharmaceutical medications for anxiety and depression. And seemingly there is not a change on the horizon as it relates to this health condition. And my goal of the video today is to help you get some understanding about what anxiety and depression is and what I believe it is and what I believe it is not. So let's first start with some concepts of what I believe it is not. I do not believe that anxiety and depression are a malfunction in your physiology, a malfunction in a patient's ability to manage and cope with adversity that shows up in their life. And what I mean by that is I do see people who have a difficult time managing and coping with adversity that is showing up in their life that leads to an anxiety or a depressed state. But anxiety and depression are the end result of the body's physiology that has been adapting over time to its adversity. And through the adaptation, what will take place is a downregulation or an upregulation. Usually it's a downregulation in serotonin, in dopamine, and our other neurotransmitters that play into our ability to in the end be okay. I will at the end of this video give you some practical concepts to start working on as it relates to anxiety and depression, and the concept of acceptance and attaching with love and understanding that you will be okay even in the midst of your problems or adversity is an essential part of how we start opening our awareness to the concepts of improving our current mental health state and our thought and belief process. So there is in healthcare this idea that, well, it's in your genetic code. There's what's called the phenotype. The genotype's a genetic code. The phenotype is how it's expressed, and it's in your phenotype, in your expression that at age 18 or age 16 or age 25 or 45 or 95 that your genes were designed to turn on at that point and create anxiety or depression. That's not the case. I don't see that anywhere else happen within the body's physiology. But that is the proverbial concept within our healthcare system, is that the genetic code has a predestiny for the individual. And when you're dealing with conditions that we can kind of fit or categorize into that conventional concept, it's very easy for the patient to feel like they're not in control of what's going on. And by all means, people can feel out of control with regards to how they're feeling both physically and emotionally. But I'm here to tell you that you have control over it. You have an ability to change it. When it comes to anxiety and depression, you're not broke. I always like to remind my patients of that, because we can feel broke at times. We feel like there must be something wrong in my body that is just part of who I am, and I have to just use a crutch to fix it, and that's the best that I'm going to be able to hope for. And that is not the case, especially when it comes to anxiety and depression. What is the reality of anxiety and depression is, again, the physiology will upregulate and downregulate its neurotransmitter function. It will shift around its hormonal reaction states within cortisol, within thyroid, within estrogen, within progesterone, within testosterone, but it's based upon the environment that the individual is functioning in. So anxiety and depression are manifestations of when adversity shows up in the environment, then the individual starts to acclimate. They start to build a method to manage the adversity. And there are times in our lives, which we all can relate to, where we should feel anxious. We should feel depressed. Those are, to a degree, natural emotional states that happen. The problem is when it becomes repetitive in nature, when the body starts to acclimate to the emotional state, and the body starts to get into a groove, as we can think about it, and starts preferentially referencing what's in front of you with that physical state. And that allows the same endocrine function, the same hormone functions, the same neurotransmitter reactions to continue to impact the thought and belief. So a great concept is the thoughts and beliefs are the language of the mind. Okay? And off of the thought and belief comes an emotional state. And we can say anxiety is fear, depression is sadness. We can put a lot of different emotions onto it, but they're an emotional reaction. And when that emotional reaction occurs from that thought and belief, it permeates down through the body and then creates a response, state or a reaction state in the body. Emotions create reaction states in the body. And we are programmed to have a greater tendency to preferentially look at fear, look at sadness, look at emotional reaction states that can put us in harm's way or in danger. So if there's a repetition over time as it relates to how we are looking at our adversity, and we continue to keep encouraging the same type of emotional reaction, our body in the end begins to get addicted to that. It gets addicted to that reaction state that happens, and over time the body starts running the mind, where your thoughts and beliefs are being very triggered by the physical reaction of the body. And that's not the hierarchy as it should be. The mind should run the body. So when anxiety and depression are happening when they become a chronic thing, remember, there are times like, you should be depressed about that. You should be anxious about that. Those are normal tendencies, normal reaction states. But when they occur, again, in repetition, and obviously when they start to become debilitating to an individual's ability to lead their life, to function in their roles, such as in their family, in their relationships, in their job, then we have to start thinking about intervention. How do we get into the system to start improving it? And the first way that I always like to explain to people, remember I said the thought and belief are the primary initiation of how we start looking at and dealing with adversity. And this video could be very long, but I'm going to try to keep it concise because to keep it simple. But we start observing how our parents manage adversity, how our friends manage adversity. We have our own unique temperament, which dictates how we manage adversity. But through different types of influences, toxicities, and stressors, we will take on different methods and different patterns to manage our adversities in front of us, okay? And again, if we get to a reference point that continues to give us a feedback of an anxious state or a depressed state or an emotional state that causes a shift of physiology physically, and that body starts moving into typically a fight or flight reaction response, and it gets stuck there, and then it feeds back to the brain, to the thought and belief to continue to look at things from a certain perspective. I'm sure either for yourself or others you can relate. You just keep looking at it the same way. Can't you just change the way you look at it? And people inherently know at times that, I should do that, but they can't. So the first place you have to look at, and the reason they can't, is the physical body. Because once you're in a chronically anxious or depressed state, the physical body is in a groove. You got to get it out of that groove. How do you get it out of that groove? Well, you start to stabilize blood sugar within the system. Okay? That gets to nutrition, that gets to regularity of eating, that gets to lowering inflammation. That brings us to the next part with regards to an inflammatory process. We have to get the gastrointestinal system in order. The gastrointestinal system is considered our second brain. First brain, second brain, within our intestines. we create just as much serotonin, which is a neurotransmitter that works against the depressed state within our digestive system as we do within our brain. So the health of our digestive system, the health of our tissues and their ability to eliminate toxicity without accumulating is a major player in the initiation of creating a potential for an anxious or depressed state to shift within the individual. So first you have to take care of the body. That opens up a potential then to get into the thought and belief system. Once the body is working in an appropriate manner and assimilating well and digesting well and eliminating well, then we go after the belief system. So your belief system is power. There's so much power in your thought and belief. And remember, there's a term called neuroplasticity. It's plastic. Your brain can change. Those neuron connections can change. Sometimes we feel like I'm just a depressed person, that's the way I'm going to be. That is not accurate. We are told that medically at times, or we see lots of people depressed, so we assume that that's the normal. That is not the normal. That is not our design. That is not your destiny to be the anxious or depressed person. What is your destiny is potential, and potential can go this way, potential can go that way. And life's not fair at times. I like that concept, which sometimes we get dealt some cards that are heavier than maybe our peers get dealt, or even our siblings. So adversity will show up to us all in our own unique way, but you are in charge of your destiny. Your choices that you make, the way that the belief system that you choose to believe is what you will essentially get. What you put out is what you will get. If you're angry with someone else, you're angry with yourself. If you're happy about something else, you're happy with yourself. What you see in others is what you see in yourself. And with anxiety and depression, we need to start looking at that story, the story that you have within your history, that you tell yourself every day when you wake up about how you choose to look at something, is a significant driver of an anxiety and depressed state within the body. Again, not anxiety and depression as a reaction, because that's just normal reactions, but when you start getting into a chronic state of it, that story that we have of our thoughts and beliefs, of how we reference things, of how we look at things, is significant. And you can change that. You can start creating a vision of what you see with regards to your life as the better you. Why does it really matter if you have anxiety and depression in your life? What does that prevent you from moving towards? What does that prevent you from doing? Who does that prevent you from getting closer to? Why does it matter that you get closer to them? Why does it matter that you move towards this and away from this? Creating a new story, creating new associations is very relevant, because what that does is it starts to create new neuron connections within the brain. It's like a path. If you just keep going down the same path, you take a machete and you clear the path, it's just so easy to go down that path. You'll go down it every time. The path of least resistance, we can say, maybe. The other path that goes to another part of the forest that's a lot more tranquil and a lot more inviting, sometimes it's a harder path to get through, but you have to start creating the pathway. Take the machete, start knocking it down, and it takes time and effort to do that, but you can create a new path. And understanding the concept that you're going to be okay no matter what shows up in front of you. Acceptance is a significant part of how you start creating a new path. Your ego does not want to accept things. It wants things to be as you think they should be, which is out of your control. You do not have control over the way things should be. You have the control over the way you choose to interpret things. And creating a foundation of acceptance and understanding that even in the midst of adversity, you will be okay, gives the mind and the body an ability to start shifting its reference point, moving to a different place of observation. And try it. Move to that different place. See what happens. Take care of the physical body. Start detoxifying. Start taking care of yourself. Don't settle for that you're just a depressed person, that this is the way it is, it's in your genes, because it's not. You can change. You can take care of yourself. Thank you so much again for taking the time to learn more about your health today, and until next time.